Every lore video on the Taken King begins with Oryx as a conqueror. This one begins with him as regicide. Savathun's severed head lies at his feet, the deep coils in silence. A throne world bleeds beneath his grip, not a gift, not a crown, a shattered relic of the Ascendant realm, his sister's final offering. The worms kneel, but their hymns taste of ash. His sister's final offering, the drowned in kin worms kneel slaughter. Taste of ash, what do you call a god who kills his own church to wear its corpse? The Hive did, one by one. What if Oryx's coronation was a power grab, not a divine act? Oryx of the Osmium court did not steal the deep, claimed it by sword, by throat, by the shattered crowns of his sisters. The Hive do not crown gods. They carve them from bone and blood. Each sister fallen was a verse in his hymn, each murder a rung on the Ascension ladder. The deep did not choose him. He drowned its gates in kinslaughter. What do you call a god who inherits a fractured empire by wiping out its line? The Hive called it Ascension. They believed the blood was ritual, not rage. They saw a king rising, not a dynasty butchering itself. Oryx did not betray the Hive. He became its theorem, power is the only theology. The Taken did not follow a monster, they followed a truth. The arena reeked of iron and rot. Oryx's blade split his sister's throat before she could scream. Worm gods watched, their 1,000 eyes gluttonous. Her blood hit the sand-thick black humming. He drank. The deep stirred in his veins. Krill chittered, sensing the shift. Sword logic is not logic. It is a feast where siblings are meat. Mara's shadow still clung to the throne, but Uldren's claws had already dug into her ribs. The Hive did not kneel to Oryx. They tore each other apart to follow him. Each kill birthed a new godlet, each godlet a new hunger. The fundament's crust cracked under the weight of their wars. No ascension, no grace, only inheritance stained in kin's blood. The worm gods fed on the chaos, their forms bloating with the screams of the devoured. Oryx's crown was a skull he crushed himself. The deep did not choose him. He carved a path through the carnage, and the deep, starved and ravenous, latched onto his hunger. The Hive's hymns of power are lies wrapped in ritual. They sing of divine right, but their gods are butchers who learn to love the knife. When Oryx drained his sister's light, he did not claim the deep. He proved it belonged to the strongest, the most willing to burn. The coup was absolute. Mara's followers dissolved into ash or allegiance. Uldren, ever the shadow, waited his turn. The Taken King's first crown was a massacre. The second would be a throne of bones. The deep whispers, but the Hive only ever listened to the sound of breaking spines. The Osmium court was no palace. It was a nest of knives wrapped in hymns. Oryx's sisters did not rule the devoured. Each bore a fragment of the deep's paracausal will, a sliver of negation that turned flesh to myth. To kill them was to steal their power. To win was to become the thief's prize. He struck first during the ritual of shattering. While the Hive chanted their god's name, he pierced his eldest sister's throat with a needle of solidified void. Her body did not fall, it folded. 1,000 prayers unraveled into the deep, and her essence became his. The second sister screamed a psalm of betrayal. He answered with a crown of her own teeth fused to his skull. The third offered a bargain. He took her voice instead. The deep did not reward loyalty, it rewarded hunger. With each murder, Oryx's form mutated. His skin became a mosaic of absorbed light. His heart turned to a black prism, refracting stolen divinity. The Hive called it Ascension. They did not see the rot. The throne world of Oryx's making was no cathedral. It was a morgue. Every skull in its vaulted ceiling whispered a name. Every pillar was a sister's spine fused to the floor. The Taken did not take. The asterisk became asterisk. To be taken was to be unmade, then remade as a tool of the negation that had devoured you. The coup was total. The final sister, the last Osmium queen, fought with a blade of living constellations. Oryx shattered it by whispering her name backward. Her death unraveled the court's theology. The Hive hymns now praised a king who had no right to rule, only the will to kill. The deep crowned him. The Hive followed. They did not know their god was a regicide. They did not know their prayers were for his victims. What does it mean to inherit a godhood built on fratricide? The Taken King's crown is a collage of his sister's bones. Every step toward power was a step away from the Hive's truth. The deep does not care who kneels. It only cares who blides first. The threshold hums, the blade still drips Savathun's red. Oryx bends his head, he drinks. The worm's essence slides down his throat, a scream never leaves his lips. His body becomes a tomb. Savathun dreamed of the deep as a path. Oryx rewrites it as a weapon. He did not take the Taken. The Taken anointed him after he slaughtered the anointers. The Hive call it a coronation. It was a coup, a brother swallowing the sister's blood, then his own. The throne world trembles. Hive legions fracture. Some kneel to the new king. Others burn his name in hymns. Theology warps. The deep is not a god. It is a wound. Oryx became its scar. He wears the worm like a crown. The Hive wear their grief like heresy. No grace in this ascension, only precision. Savathun's corpse still warm when he buries her under a pyramid of bones. The Taken do not care, they only follow. The Hive, they bleed. Did the deep ever intend to crown him, or did it let him win so it could feast on the fallout? Oryx's new power smells of rot and ambition. His followers call it apotheosis. They do not see the cracks. The throne room echoes with the ghosts of his kin. Every hymn to the deep is a dirge for the Hive. Every offering to the worm is a debt paid in their ashes. The Taken king rules a kingdom of orphans. His blade, once stained with sisters' blood, now carves a new myth. The Hive will preach it for millennia, that the deep chose them. They will never speak the truth, that Oryx chose the deep after choosing to kill. The worm thrives, the throne endures. The blood never dries and the deep waits, it always waits. But to understand what happens next, you must understand what they gave up. The deep's catacombs cradle the bones of Oryx's rivals. Their flesh rotted, but their corruption thrives, feasting on the rage and fear that birthed it. The Hive's god queen never forgave the silence of those tombs. The throne was never his to take. It was theirs, stolen in shadow, and the deep remembers every breath they took before the blade fell. The throne was never his to take. Oryx carved it from the bones of his brothers. The deep does not forgive. The Hive called it Ascension. The deep called it massacre. When Oryx shattered the house of kings, his kin did not Folthy burned. The krill loved him first to kneel, became his voice first sacrifice. Like once a hunter of threads in a light void-sown shroud, now Odded drags her hollow wastes. Sagira his kin did not Folthy burned, loved him hollow. Mine's Cade's partner, like once a hunter of threads in a light, now Odded drags her hollow wastes, gaze through ghost-rotted wastes. Eris light, brightest of all, bent but did not break until the deep whispered that even stars must die. A god's rise is a pyramid of corpses. Oryx built his with Hive blood, dust, and the shattered prayers of those who trusted him. The Taken were not chosen, they were failures. The deep does not takes what it is given. A guardian's soul, a queen's faith, a king's crown, all offered, none forced. The Hive saw a god. The deep saw a host. You think the Taken hunger, they starve. Oryx's coup left a wound in reality itself. The deep flows through that wound, a poison with wings. His followers did not follow, they were infected. Their bodies bloated with negation, their wills dissolved into his. What he called an empire was a graveyard. What he called worship was a requiem. When light fell on Oryx's skull, the Taken did not perish, they exhaled. For the first time, the deep's chains loosened. But freedom is a cruel gift. Cade's partner staggers, remembering a name she can no longer say. Eris light flickers, mourning a sister swallowed by her own hope. The krill scuttle in silence, their voices drowned. The cost of a god is not his death. It is the lives that cling to him like rust. The Hive still kneel. Not to Oryx, to the shadow he carved in the shape of divinity. The deep waits, it always waits. The throne world rose from the bones of his kin. Oryx's sword drank the light from 12 twin suns. Each fall of the blade, a crown's weight added skull after skull, brother against brother until the Hive's own hymns echoed with the screams of the slain. Did the deep ordain this carnage? Or did it merely kneel, as all things do, before the shape of its own hunger? The first god-forged spire pierced the void where Oryx's palace once floated. Stone and shadow wove themselves into a mausoleum of war, its arches carved with the faces of those he loved best. Their eyes still weep light, frozen mid-plea. Their names are now the foundation of his name. The Hive call it Ascension. It was a tomb. No god claimed him. The deep, that patient hollow, wore his flesh as a mask. It did not possess. It inherited. Oryx's heart became its maw, a forge for the winnowers, principally a negation not of light, but of asterisk lineage asterisk. Each killing refined him. Each crown stone bound him closer to the void's cold arithmetic. The Hive, who once called him * Prince of Emeralds * now whisper his new title through chittering teeth, * Disciple of the Unmade *. They did not bow willingly. Legions of his house turned blade on blade, their war cries twisting into wails as Oryx's new order consumed them. The throne world's spires siphoned their rage, their grief, their I am * until even the air reeked of annihilation. The deep's hymn is a requiem for the Hive. He wears their deaths like a second skin. The crown's hollows pulse with the last words of his siblings. The throne's cracks bleed the hymns of his people. And Oryx, no longer prince nor emperor, rules a kingdom of unbecoming *. The Hive still kneel, not to him, to the shadow he carved in the shape of divinity. The deep waits. It always waits. The catacombs still hum with his residue. Taken power flows unchained now, seeping through stone like old blood through fractured veins. Hive courts crumble where his throne once blazed, yet his name lingers in their Samsa scar they consecrate. They call him * King who took *, but took what? A crown? No, a people. The deep does not mourn him, it never did. It is older than his hunger, patient as a star cooling. Worms chant its name in the dark, not his. Yet Hive still carve hymns into his bones, mistaking the wound for the wound's maker. Oryx's coup was no divine act, he did not rise, he * split *. A blade turned inward, severing the Hive's spine to claim the deep's cold seat. Brothers bled for brothers then. The taken were not Chosenthi, were wreckage. Now his ghost haunts the pale heart's echo, a shadow without warmth, but the deep moves slower. It let him burn, let the Hive devour itself, let the taken fester. It waits for the next king to crack the shell. The Hive kneels still, not to Oryx, to the belief he carved, that terror can be a throne. The deep does not answer, it * waits *, and in that silence the first taken whisper * he is not done *. The Hive did not yield to Oryx, they shattered. His blades carved a throne from the bones of brothers, sisters, and the old gods who had once called him son. The deep did not anoint him, it observed. A king built on murder is a king built on sand. When the winnow asked, * only that which cannot be killed is real *, the answer hung like a blade over Oryx's crown. He could not kill the deep. He could not kill the silence, but he could kill the ones who stood between him and the void's cold embrace. The worms did not choose him. They followed the absence he carved at a god-shaped wound in the Hive. His reign was not unity. It was a truce between survivors and the unburied. The deep's patience is not mercy. It is the tide waiting for the moon to forget its pull. Oryx's violence was a mirror, cracked and screaming, reflecting what the Hive had become, a people who worshipped power as if it were prayer. The taken whisper * he is not done *. They do not yet see, the deep does not rise. It * always was *. Oryx's error was believing the throne could be his to claim. The only truth the winnow speaks is this: what dies is not real, and Oryx, for all his blood and fire, was always the first to fall. Oryx did not conquer the deep, he claimed a throne abandoned in ash. Brothers bled the Hive's hymns to dust, their gods slaughter a silent psalm. The taken were not his disciples, but the debris of his Wara kingdom, built on the corpses of those who once called him kin. To the Hive he was heresy made sovereign, his crown a skull wrought from the bones of the faithful. The deep does not hunger. It * breeds * a monument to what Oryx took and twisted, where light is not devoured but * forged * in the crucible of his betrayal. His reign is no ascension. It is the echo of a dynasty's death rattle, a god who became a wound. The taken king's true name is written in the blood of the first city's forgotten sons. And every hymn of war he sings is a dirge for the Hive he murdered to wear their faith like a shroud. A throne secured in blood, not light. Oryx's crown was forged in the ashes of his sister's realm. Savathun, the architect of lies, fell to her brother's blade, her visions of unity drowned in the Hive's schism. But what if the Hive's next god mirrors Oryx's rot? A sister's war against the deep, a throne